All right, Mopar people, welcome back to the channel. I'm just Mopar Joe. This will be a little engine tech stuff that I never tried before, but it was inspired by a viewer. So one of my last engine build videos, I was working on the 526 behind me, and you can see my little air conditioner here. So I was measuring different clearances for bearings, and someone had said, well, you know the different temperatures will affect those bearing clearances differently. That makes sense. So today's video, whatever you want to call this, we're going to test that. So I have the same rod and same bearing combination. I'm going to throughout today. So step one, we're going to measure it at room temperature with the bearing shell in it. And I'll show that with my dial bore gauge. I'll leave the dial bore gauge alone. No one's going to touch it. Next step, rod and bearing assembly. I'm going to put it out on the driveway outside. And then we're going to run it right back in here, set it on the table, and measure it. The final step, which could be the most dramatic shift or change, I'm going to stick it in the freezer. So we're going to put it in the freezer, try to get it to, I don't know, 32 degrees, and however cold the freezer will get. Then we'll do our last measurement, and then you will have some data. We'll all have data. You may not care about this, but I think it's going to be interesting. So y'all stay tuned. Here is our rod of the day. This is a 440 source stock replacement connecting rod. The only thing that's been done to this, I had the ends drilled and chamfered so that you could float this steel to steel if you want to. The 400 that's in my blue truck right now, the Dyno 400 series I have, has a set of these rods except they're for a B engine. This is an RB. One downside of this, it's very heavy rod. So the reason these are brand new and not used, I bought these to use in an engine. They're so very heavy they were going to have to add a lot of metal to a stock crank to use them. So I put them back in the box. These bearings I have, I believe they're a Federal Mogul, but they're in pretty good shape. They came from our Hughes 440 that I tore apart. And I set up my mic off that same crankshaft. So right now I'm just using my Goodson holder to set up my dial bore gauge. So it is critical. I will get you the zoomed in view of this. That measures in half thousandths, if you can see that 0005 there. So you're going to have to make your own judgment here. I'll tell you what I can see. You may read it differently at home. But right now we are perfectly zeroed. Right there. There's our rod. This was setting out in the shop itself. Rick Seaman left me this. 78.8. Okay. The bearing itself is 80 degrees. There we are. That is just over 2.5. Can you see the amount that it's over 2.5? I will take a picture of that as well right now. So this is Arkansas in the summertime. lay it on that metal trailer. We'll come back and check on it in about an hour. Our hot rod off the trailer. It's pretty warm to the touch. I'll try to get an accurate reading here. 84, 85, the bearing, 88. Let's measure it anyway. And I will screenshot this for us. The engine room has stayed at a steady temperature the entire time. Can y'all see that? Let me zoom you on it. We're over 3 now. I'd call that 3 1/4 right there. That's crazy. Move up a little. 3 1/4. Twist a little. Yeah, I was in the small. The lower 3 right there. Interesting. Still 85, 86, 87. Freezer's 19 inside. Let's add a rod. Here's for our people in Minnesota and Canada. Here's our cold rod. You can see the frost glowing in that dude. And it's actually not as cold as you would think. We shoot that 46, 43. Just depends on which part you shoot. 55 there. It feels very cold. Let's say there's 50. So I know for a certain fact I've built engines in 50-degree weather. We probably had a heater on around us, but yeah, this dude's cold. Let's read what it goes to. Be sure we don't have an icy buildup. There's 2. There we go. I would call that 2 all day long. Obviously, as everybody expected, the cold rod was the tightest one of the day. Because everything shrinks up when it's cold. That's why you put your rubbers in the freezer and all that stuff. But I never knew how much. So here's an example on a steel Mopar connecting rod. Let's review. So to wrap this up without wasting any time, we gained 13 10,000ths from our coldest rod to our warmest rod. So a clear 1,000th plus 3 10,000ths, however you'd like to add that up. I believe the standard on calibrating precision equipment is like 68 degrees. So we're close enough at 72, I think. Just an interesting test. Hopefully y'all can take this test for what it was. Obviously there's different expansion rates between different kinds of metal. Steve Morris has an excellent video on checking, I think, a Lamborghini block that's aluminum, them heating the block up, cooling it off, and checking the main bearing clearances on it and stuff. I think it's like 3 years old, but I'm not Steve Morris, and he's not just Mopar Joe. So thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch you next time. All right, Mopar people.